the verdict came in.
No.
They only got him for like 2 counts, and that was for prostitution. So literally, while we're talking right now, he could be walking out.
Kira, I'm still trying to wrap my mind around this. I'm not even sure if I would say there would be an appeal, because for Sean Combs and his defense team, this is a massive win. 3 of the counts that had a life sentence possibility are gone. When it comes to transportation to engage in prostitution, the minimum is nothing. There's a theoretical possibility that he walks out on probation. Now, do I think that's going to happen? No, but the max is 10 years. Even if you were to take both sentences, and he's not going to get 10 years.
The courtroom was tense, silent, and brimming with anticipation, and then came the twist. After 7 grueling weeks of testimony, raw emotion, and deeply disturbing allegations, the jury in Sean Diddy Combs' federal trial delivered what seemed like closure. But instead, they handed the world a cliffhanger. They reached unanimous decisions on 4 out of 5 charges, yet the most serious and defining count, racketeering, remained frozen in deadlock. And just like that, the entire case stalled.
Saying she displayed unquestionable strength and brought attention to the realities of powerful men in our orbit and the misconduct that has persisted for decades without repercussion.
No verdicts could be read, no guilt or innocence declared, because the racketeering charge is the linchpin tying all the others together. This isn't just legal red tape, it's a strategic nightmare for both sides. On paper, it looks like progress. In reality, it throws everything into question. If they can't reach a decision on racketeering, the trial risks ending in a hung jury on the most important charge. And until that's resolved, no one, not even Diddy himself, knows if he's walking free or heading into a lifetime of legal battles. Even more frustrating, we don't even know which way the jury is leaning on the 4 other counts, because they're being held back until a decision is made on the 5th. Inside the courtroom, Diddy's face reportedly darkened when the partial verdict was announced. He wasn't celebrating. There were no sighs of relief. If anything, it looked like he understood the gravity of what was unfolding and the danger of a jury that's partially decided but not in his favor. The racketeering count isn't just another charge. It's the one that ties all the other crimes together into a bigger narrative, that Diddy wasn't just abusive, but that he ran an enterprise built on coercion, exploitation, and fear. And right now that narrative is on life support.
As I mentioned at the top of the show, we are following breaking news out of New York City, where a bail hearing is being held for Sean Diddy Combs. Earlier today, he was cleared of the most serious charges he faced while being convicted of 2 prostitution-related charges. Each count carries a maximum sentence of 10 years.
The jury did not find Combs guilty of sex trafficking, Cassie, beyond a reasonable doubt. She paved the way for a jury to find him guilty of transportation to engage in prostitution by coming forward with her experience.
While the racketeering charge has the jury tangled in knots, the other 4 charges appear to have been more straightforward, at least on the surface. The panel of 8 men and 4 women reportedly came to unanimous decisions on sex trafficking and Mann Act violations involving both Cassie and an unnamed woman known only as Jane. These charges are serious on their own, transporting individuals across state lines for sexual exploitation, coercion through threats and power dynamics, and orchestrating situations where consent was a blurred line at best.
The jury did not find Combs guilty of sex trafficking, Cassie, beyond a reasonable doubt. She paved the way for a jury to find him guilty of transportation to engage in prostitution by coming forward with her experience.
For any defendant, a conviction on even one of those counts would be devastating. But here's the legal trap, because those same crimes are also listed as part of the larger racketeering charge. The jury can't announce a verdict on them unless they've reached a consensus on the racketeering itself. This legal structure is causing widespread confusion and frustration, not just for the public, but likely for the jury as well. It's like holding 4 grenades with pins pulled, waiting to find out if the 5th one sets them all off. The fact that these charges are tethered together means that until the jury answers the racketeering question, they can't move forward. And that's not just a technicality, it's a strategy. Prosecutors used the RICO statute to paint a picture that Diddy's alleged misconduct wasn't isolated or impulsive, but part of a long-running pattern of abuse, secrecy, and control. By bundling these charges under the umbrella of organized criminal behavior, they've raised the stakes sky high. The problem? Racketeering laws were designed to take down mob bosses and drug kingpins. Some jurors may be asking, does Diddy fit that mold? And that question, not the details of what happened, may be the very thing keeping them deadlocked. Racketeering might sound like a throwback to mob trials and mafia movies, but in this case, it's the legal heartbeat of the prosecution's entire case against Diddy. The RICO Act, short for the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, was originally crafted to dismantle criminal networks, drug syndicates, human trafficking rings, white-collar conspiracies. It's not just about proving a person committed crimes, it's about proving they ran a coordinated criminal enterprise with intent, structure, and repeated action. And that's where this jury seems to have hit a wall. For some jurors, Diddy might look like a manipulative abuser, but does he look like the head of a criminal organization? That's where the uncertainty lies. Even if they believe the stories of coercion, abuse, and exploitation, it's a much bigger leap to say this wasn't just one man acting badly. It was a system, a racket, a business of corruption. Some might be asking, where's the paper trail, the co-conspirators, the hierarchy of crime? And if they're not all the way convinced they can't vote guilty on racketeering, no matter how damning the other charges look? That's why insiders say the jury room is locked in a real psychological battle. This isn't a single holdout digging in their heels. It's reportedly multiple people, divided, clashing over the heart of the case. Some may feel the racketeering charge overreaches, while others believe it's the only way to hold a powerful figure fully accountable. And without agreement on that central question, the entire verdict stays buried. Every other decision they made, from sex trafficking to transportation for prostitution, is paused, unreleased, unread. Until that fifth charge gets a yes or no, Diddy's legal fate stays in limbo. One moment from the trial may be haunting the jury more than any other, a chilling incident involving a private flight, a threat, and a video no one ever wanted to see. According to Cassie's testimony, Diddy confronted her on a plane from Cannes to New York with a disturbing ultimatum. He allegedly showed her a recording of a previous freak-off, the nickname for his drug-fueled group sex marathons, and warned her that unless she agreed to participate in another one when they landed, he would send the footage to her mother. It was textbook coercion, and if the jury believes her, it could seal the sex trafficking charge. But there's a catch, a big one. That story never came up during Cassie's main testimony. It wasn't mentioned in direct questioning. It wasn't brought up during cross-examination. It only surfaced during redirect, when her lawyers circled back to clarify her earlier statements. And for a detail that disturbing, some jurors might be wondering, why didn't she mention it sooner? Is it something she forgot? Or is it something they're not sure they can trust? It's not about disbelief, it's about doubt, reasonable doubt. And that tiny seed of hesitation could be what's keeping the racketeering count from tipping over the edge. Still, the jury asked to review that specific section of her testimony, a move that speaks volumes. It suggests that someone in that room believes the threat was real, and they're trying to convince others. They're pulling transcripts, revisiting words, analyzing the moment frame by frame, not because they're confused, but because they know this may be the smoking gun. And if they can't get everyone to see it, the whole case may unravel right there. While the public waits in suspense, inside that jury room is a legal chessboard. Tensions are high, opinions are dug in, and both sides of the aisle know that racketeering is the linchpin that could blow the case wide open or cause it to collapse. The judge knows it too, which is why talk turned to something called the Allen charge, often referred to as the dynamite charge. It's a tool judges use when a jury is deadlocked, a carefully worded nudge that encourages them to reconsider their positions, review the evidence again, and try to come to a unanimous verdict. The prosecution wanted a modified Allen charge, essentially a message from the judge reminding the jurors of their duty to deliberate and suggesting they dig deeper. Not pressure exactly, but certainly persuasion. The defense, however, wasn't having it. Their request? Say nothing. Let the deadlock stand. Why? Because for Diddy's legal team, a hung jury on racketeering is the best-case scenario right now. If they can hold off just long enough, keep those dissenting jurors from flipping, they can walk away from the most damaging charge with a mistrial. That's why every decision in this moment is strategic. The judge ultimately sided with the defense. No Allen charge yet. Just send the jury back in and see if time alone does the trick. But this isn't just about time, it's about psychology. The longer jurors argue without progress, the more likely they are to dig in or snap. And if even one of those holdouts gets worn down, the result could flip overnight. That's what the prosecution is quietly hoping for, because when a verdict hangs by a thread, sometimes all it takes is one juror changing their mind to rewrite history. There's one wild card in this trial that has nothing to do with evidence, witnesses, or legal arguments: the calendar. The jury is staring down the barrel of a long holiday weekend, and the unspoken reality is that nothing motivates agreement like the threat of missing 4 days of freedom. The judge didn't outright say it, but everyone knows what's at stake. The prosecution wanted the jury to be reminded that if they didn't reach a decision soon, they might have to come back and deliberate on July 3rd, right before Independence Day. The defense, on the other hand, pushed back hard. Their strategy was simple: don't mention it. Don't light a fire under the jury. Let time run out and let the deadlock stand. Because here's the thing, no one wants to be stuck in a windowless room arguing over legal definitions while fireworks go off outside. Jurors may start doing mental math. If we just hang on until tomorrow without agreeing, maybe the judge lets us go. Maybe the mistrial sticks. Maybe we don't have to deal with this anymore. But if they're told they'll be dragged back mid-holiday, the pressure builds. Consensus suddenly looks a lot more attractive, and that's the psychological war playing out behind the scenes. Jurors aren't robots. They get tired, they get irritated, they want to go home, and all of that fatigue might work in the prosecution's favor. If someone who's been holding out on the racketeering charge starts to feel the pressure, they might just cave. They might vote guilty, not because they were convinced, but because they're exhausted. And that's the gamble. With each hour that passes, the question becomes more urgent. Will the clock kill the case, or crack it wide open? As deliberations stretch into another day, everyone is asking the same question: what happens next? There are only a few paths forward now, and each one has enormous consequences for Sean Diddy Combs. The most immediate outcome is a potential hung jury on the racketeering charge. If jurors remain split, and reports suggest the divide is deep, with multiple people on both sides, the judge may be forced to declare a mistrial on that count. That would mean no conviction, no acquittal, just a legal limbo. And while it wouldn't erase the damage to Diddy's public image, it would spare him from the most serious charge on the table. But that's only one part of the story. If the jury remains deadlocked on racketeering, the judge could still allow verdicts on the 4 other counts to be read, and based on courtroom behavior, legal experts believe those may be guilty verdicts. The fact that jurors came to a unanimous decision on those charges, and did so relatively quickly, suggests strong agreement. If that's true, Diddy could still be convicted of sex trafficking and Mann Act violations involving both Cassie and Jane, which carry significant prison time on their own. Even without RICO, that's a devastating blow. On the other hand, there's still a chance, however slim, that the jury finds a path to agreement on racketeering, whether it's from reviewing transcripts, emotional appeals, or simply wanting to avoid another day in court, one flip could tip the scale. And if that happens, the full weight of a RICO conviction could land on Diddy's shoulders, painting him not just as an abuser, but as the mastermind of a criminal enterprise. In that scenario, this trial doesn't just damage his brand, it detonates it. Now, all eyes are on the courtroom. The jury returns in the morning, and with the July 4th holiday just hours away, there's a sense that the clock isn't just ticking, it's roaring. Judges, prosecutors, defense teams, and even the public know how these things tend to play out. When a jury is backed into a corner by a looming break, miracles, or compromises, tend to happen. The courtroom may be silent, but behind those jury room doors, the pressure is deafening. Someone is calculating whether it's worth holding the line, someone else is wondering if it's time to fold. And everyone knows, whatever happens next, it's going to be big. Sean Diddy Combs sat expressionless in court the day the jury announced their partial verdict. No relief, no celebration, just the cold realization that he's standing on the edge of something massive. Whether it's total vindication, a fractured outcome, or a full-blown conviction, the next 24 hours could determine everything, not just legally, but culturally. Because this isn't just about what happens in court, it's about how it's remembered. If the jury lands on racketeering, Diddy becomes the face of a decades-long pattern of abuse, finally brought to light. If they don't, questions will swirl about power, influence, and whether justice can truly reach the elite. The jury is tired, the evidence has been heard, the transcripts reviewed, and the nation waits for a decision that could echo far beyond this one man. If consensus is reached, it will be read in court, possibly within hours. If not, a mistrial on racketeering means we may never know how close justice came, but one thing's certain: Diddy's world is forever changed. The only question now is, will tomorrow bring closure or chaos?